Chapter 1491, Pitiful Young Man. Chapter 1491, Pitiful Young Man. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Ing Wu Xie, He Lu Lan, White Rabbit, and Fairy Miao Yin came out of Fong Yuan's sovereign immortal aperture. Next, I will personally explore the dream realm. Fong Yuan turned around and said to Tang Fongming. Tang Fongming's heart shook, but he soon understood Fong Yuan's words. He smiled bitterly. Fairies, please come with me. This immortal Gu formation that concealed Thieving Heaven's dream realm was controlled by Tang Fongming. But now, Tang Fongming was giving up a portion of the control to Shadow Sect's immortals, so that they could control it along with him. This was part of the content of Fong Yuan's and Tang Clan's alliance agreement. When Fong Yuan explores the dream realm, his soul would leave his body and enter the dream realm, his body would be left unguarded. That was quite a dangerous situation. Thus, Fong Yuan brought out Shadow Sect's Gu immortals. They were in charge of protecting him. This immortal Gu formation could not be left under the control of outsiders, thus, Shadow Sect's Gu immortals had to take part of the control of this formation. This way, be it Shadow Sect or Tang Clan, they could restrict each other, neither could do anything vicious to Fong Yuan's body. Fong Yuan always did things with utmost caution. After the formation was half controlled by Shadow Sect, he went out of his body and entered Thieving Heaven's dream realm. Tang Fongming did not blink, he watched in concentration. This is the truly important method. His breathing became rough, his mind was filled with thoughts of learning. But what crucial technique could he learn from just watching Fong Yuan like this? Where am I? Fong Yuan entered the dream as his vision changed. He found himself in a young male body. He was inside a tattered tent. The tent was very simple, it was merely a tattered tarp. Wind blew and the tent shook, a cold chill could be felt as Fong Yuan's vision shifted towards the hole on the tent. The tent was torn. Damn this guy, not only did he beat me, he even tore my tent. The young man that Fong Yuan was acting as gritted his teeth as he muttered to himself. Next, this young man lowered his head, inspecting his injuries. Fong Yuan's vision was turned again as he looked at his dirty and tattered clothes. He was really pitiful and poor, his chest was covered in blue-black wounds. The young man touched the injuries on his body, waves of pain could be felt by Fong Yuan. To think that I, the great Ben Jia's son, would end up in this ridiculous world, growing up as a kid again, and being bullied by a bunch of youngsters. This is too much. This world is absurd, humans actually control Gu worms to gain mysterious powers, this is just like a nightmare. Sigh. If this was really a dream, why have I not woken up after more than a decade? Fong Yuan listened to the young man's words, his heart shook. He knew of many secrets. Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable was an otherworldly demon like him, he had transmigrated from another world. Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable's name is Ben Jia Sunday. That means that in this dream, I am acting as Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable himself. But he is still a mortal youngster now, he has not started his Gu cultivation journey. Fong Yuan understood. At this moment, the young man muttered again, but thankfully, the tribe will open the sacred land tonight. Once I enter it, I will be able to awaken my aperture and start cultivating, I will gain Gu master powers. Oh! I hope this power can allow me to escape this place and return to my homeland. The young Thieving Heaven said this as he felt pain, he gritted his teeth and stood up, moving towards his tent flap as he walked outside. Fong Yuan was like a will attached to this young Thieving Heaven, he could only watch but could not manipulate his actions. This was a rare situation even for Fong Yuan. After trying all his methods and failing, Fong Yuan could only watch as an observer as the dream realm went on. Young Thieving Heaven went out of his tent. Immediately, in Fong Yuan's vision, he saw a green oasis under the moon. It was night time, the round moon was high in the sky, its pure moonlight raining down on the entire oasis. This oasis was very small, there was a pond at the center, with many tents surrounding it. These tents were of varying sizes and colors, most were gray and white, some were yellow, gold, and purple. These tents with brighter colors were usually larger, signifying the higher status of their owners. Young Thieving Heaven looked at the area with admiration, before turning around to look at his own tent. His tent was tiny and ugly, it was covered in black soot, there were even holes in it, cold wind blew in at night. The young Thieving Heaven frowned as arrogance flashed in his eyes, he snorted, "After tonight, I will not stay in such a horrible place anymore." Saying so, he walked towards the central tent. Along the way, many youngsters came out of their tents. They had stiff expressions, nobody dared to say a word. Today was the most important day of their lives, it was the most sacred moment. According to Western Desert's customs, all of the youngsters had to be reverent and not speak unnecessarily. Whoever spoke too much or showed too much emotions, either joy or sadness, would cause the ritual to lose its elegance, they would be severely punished and even exiled by the clan. Once they were exiled, any mortal youngster would die without doubt. The severity of the punishment was evident. More and more youngsters gathered towards the center of the oasis, a crowd was forming. Along the way, young Thieving Heaven naturally met the youngsters who beat him. Fang Yuan turned to look, they were all tall and muscular, their bodies were much larger than the surrounding youngsters, their clothes were also evidently more expensive, showing that they had extraordinary background. These youngsters also saw young Thieving Heaven, even though they did not dare to speak, their fierce and provocative gazes were clearly seen. Young Thieving Heaven snorted, feeling no fear. Both sides walked with fierce gazes until they arrived at the pond in the middle of the oasis. There were common reeds growing around the pond, these white reed were flowering, swaying along with the night winds, while moonlight poured down warmly. All of the wild Hope Gu were living in the reed, there were countless Hope Gu here based on the number of flickering lights. This made Fang Yuan remember the scene of his awakening ceremony back on Qing Mao Mountain. Even though Western Desert's traditions were different from southern borders, they were both using Hope Gu to awaken the aperture, the process was quite similar. One by one, the youngsters walked into the reed field as wild Hope Gu flew around in shock. Their apertures awakened one by one, they were worried, sad, happy, and depressed respectively. For most mortals, the aptitude of the aperture decided their life's achievements. But different from southern borders' heated atmosphere, Western Desert had a solemn and quiet atmosphere during this ceremony. Even if one felt immense joy or sadness, they had to control themselves, their expressions could distort, they could shed tears, but they could not make a sound. Soon, it was young Thieving Heaven's turn. He could not wait, he went into the reed the moment permission was granted. But the aptitude that he had was only the worst D-grade. D-grade aptitude Gu masters had only 20 to 30% primeval essence in their apertures, most could become rank 1 but few could reach rank 2. Gu masters with such aptitudes had basically no potential or future. It was basically confirmed that Gu masters with D-grade aptitudes would end up being at the bottom of the Gu master hierarchy in their lives. How? How can I have D-grade aptitude? Young Thieving Heaven screamed immediately. Shut up. The Gu master in charge of the event immediately captured Thieving Heaven and sealed his mouth. Young Thieving Heaven struggled intensely, the Gu master snorted coldly and chopped with his palm. Young Thieving Heaven immediately fainted. Fang Yuan's field of vision also turned dark. He found that he could not do anything, even Unravel Dream had no effect. The larger the dream realm, the more restrictive power it has. However, Unravel Dream had no effect likely because this dream realm that I am in is very special. Fang Yuan estimated. He tried again and upon seeing no effect, he had to helplessly wait for the next scene. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know, report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1492, Thieving Heaven's Fortuitous Encounter. Chapter 1492, Thieving Heaven's Fortuitous Encounter. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. In the vast darkness, Fang Yuan's soul was suffering. This dark space had an immense corrosive effect on his soul. This was something Fang Yuan had never seen when exploring dream realms. Fortunately, Fang Yuan's soul foundation was extraordinary. He was over 10 million man's soul, he could endure the corrosion of the dream realm. Time in the dream realm could not be estimated. He only felt like a long time had passed before a white light appeared in the vast darkness. The white spot extended into a white line. Before the line expanded up and down, light burst out as it filled Fang Yuan's vision. Young thieving heaven gradually awakened. The white light was the blazing sun. Young thieving heaven quickly used his hand to shield his eyes. Why am I here? He soon found himself lying on the desert. Night had already passed, it was noon now. Young thieving heaven's doubts did not last long because soon, he found some information in his mind. This information was left behind by the clan's Gu master. The content was that young thieving heaven had defied the clan rules and was exiled as punishment. But because he was young and ignorant, he only needed to stay in this desert for 3 days. As long as he returned to the clan after that, he would be able to join the clan again and live there. F***ck. After understanding what had happened, young thieving heaven cursed as his saliva shot out. I had merely said a few words and you guys exiled me. This is abusing children, you simply disregard lives. You bastards. I curse you. Young thieving heaven raised his middle finger, but he did not know where to point. He did not even know his directions now, he did not know where the clan was at. This discovery made young thieving heaven lose all his vigor. He sat on the ground. What do I do now? Even though I became a Gu master, I have no Gu worms. I have no water or food. By night time, without any warm clothes or tents to shield me from the wind, I will freeze to death. No, I must live. I will survive in this accursed world and find a way home. Young thieving heaven gritted his teeth. 2 flames of ambition were burning in his eyes. At the same time, Fang Yuan felt his body relaxing. The restraints on him vanished suddenly. When he moved his arms and legs, young thieving heaven also moved his arms and legs. Oh. I can control it now. It seems that I need to take the place of young thieving heaven and survive in this desert. Fang Yuan immediately realized. Struggling to survive in a desperate situation, Fang Yuan had experienced that many times, but he was in a difficult spot now. There was simply one reason. He had nothing to work with. Young thieving heaven had nothing on him, he only had 20 to 30% primeval essence without a single mortal Gu. Asking him to survive in the desert was harder than ascending heaven. The clan exiled him like this, they want him to die. No, more accurately, they do not care about a Gu master like him. Normally speaking, every Gu master was precious, but Fang Yuan thought about the scene before, he realized the reason. The clan that young thieving heaven is in is not strong, they have few resources. Thus, even if they have potential Gu masters, they need to nurture the talented ones. Fang Yuan smiled bitterly, this discovery was useless for the problem he was facing. Looking around, all he saw was sand, there was no greenery anywhere. Immortal killer move, unravel dream. Fang Yuan used it, but after a while, he saw nothing happening. This useful trump card that had helped him countless times was completely restricted in thieving heaven's dream realm. Fang Yuan sighed deeply, I can only test my luck. He chose a direction and started moving. 1.5 days later, Fang Yuan encountered nothing, he died of thirst along the way. After that, Fang Yuan's soul suffered a huge injury. He was forced out of the dream. The exploration of the dream realm failed, his soul was heavily injured and returned to the sovereign immortal body. Fang Yuan felt dizzy and saw darkness, he quickly used Guts Gu to heal his injuries. Guts Gu. Tang Fangming saw this and had a look of envy. He watched as Fang Yuan used many Guts Gu to heal his soul rapidly. Guts Gu was the best supporting Gu for exploring dream realms. Fang Yuan went into thieving heaven's dream realm again as his soul left his body. Arriving in the desert again. Fang Yuan sighed, he chose a different direction and moved forward. After walking for a day, there was still nothing in his vision. Fang Yuan was tired and thirsty, he felt his body reaching its limit. If thieving heaven was in the same situation in history, he had no way of surviving, he needed external help or fortuitous encounters. This means, one direction will have a fortuitous encounter. But my luck was bad, I did not encounter it. This round seems to depend on the explorer's luck. It is a pity my luck path methods cannot be used in the dream, unless I can combine dream path and luck path to create an immortal killer move or immortal Gu of both paths, that will have effect. Fang Yuan continued to analyze. His second exploration failed again. After resting, he started his third try. This time, he chose a different direction. Soon, he encountered a pit. This was a quicksand pit. Fang Yuan was stuck and could not escape. Am I going to die again? Fang Yuan was a little stifled, he could only watch as the sand devoured him. But unexpectedly, before the quicksand covered his head, sand started to spew upwards like a geyser, shooting Fang Yuan towards the sky. After Fang Yuan landed, the quicksand pit had turned into a hole, it was blowing out cold air. It was a cool and comfortable breeze. This might work. Fang Yuan quickly got close to the pit and saw that there were winged fish flying out of the hole along with the breeze. These were not fish, they were mortal cool wind Gu. Fang Yuan quickly wanted to subdue these mortal Gu, but the cool wind Gu were very fast, they ignored Fang Yuan. The edges of the hole were blowing air and repelling Fang Yuan, pushing him away. Fang Yuan had low strength and was very hungry, he could not get close to the hole and interact with these cool wind Gu. But Fang Yuan was not dejected, he patiently waited. Not long after, his chance appeared, a cool wind Gu was injured when colliding into its companions, it fell to the ground and left the cool air, landing at the fringe of the hole. Fang Yuan quickly grabbed this cool wind Gu. But in his excitement, he squashed it to death. Fang Yuan was speechless, he could only wait. Soon, his chance appeared again, 2 cool wind Gu flew out. But before Fang Yuan captured them, they flew up again and went into the cool air tunnel. Fang Yuan sighed, but he suddenly had an inspiration, what if I use Unraveled Dream at this time? He used Immortal Killer move Unraveled Dream again, at the next moment, he saw an effect, a cool wind Gu flew out. Fang Yuan grabbed it and before he refined it, a second cool wind Gu flew down and was quite injured, it tried to move its wings but could not fly. Fang Yuan captured it as well and after some effort, he refined both cool wind Gu. When the cool air vanished, these wild cool wind Gu flew with it and left Fang Yuan's vision, but he already had 5 cool wind Gu in his aperture. I finally have some methods. Even though the issue of survival was not solved, this was a good start. And most importantly, this quicksand pit was a sign that Fang Yuan chose the right direction. And something that boosted Fang Yuan's morale was that Unraveled Dream was not useless here, it had some specific uses in Thieving Heaven's dream realm. Fang Yuan continued past the quicksand pit and moved forward, not long after, he saw a small oasis. There was a well in the oasis, even though there were some wild beasts guarding it, and the leader of the beasts even had a mortal Gu. Fang Yuan was energized, he used the 5 cool wind Gu to fight this group of beasts. Eventually, using the terrain and his schemes, he killed the beast group, and also subdued the wild Gu worm on the leader's body. This was a poison path Gu worm resembling a scorpion. The battle was decided, Fang Yuan quickly came to the well, but to his disappointment, it had dried up. But that was not an issue, the beast corpses here were precious provisions. Fang Yuan drank the beast blood and ate some meat to fill his stomach. Next, he collected the stomachs of some beasts and collected all of their blood, he also pulled apart some meat and used the beast intestines to tie them onto his body. By now, the dream realm was already at night time, the desert temperature was getting low. Fang Yuan had a plan, he was not rushed or anxious. He held the beast skins and bones that he had and came to the dried well, creating a structure with the bones and placing the skin above them. These beast skins still had some fat layers on them, they were quite heat-retaining. After his arrangements, Fang Yuan entered the empty hole and carefully explored the well. He placed his feet on the sides of the well, preventing his body from falling down, he pulled on the beast skin and completely covered the hole on top. Next, he slowly got down to the bottom of the well. When he got to the bottom of the well, Fang Yuan wanted to survive a night in here, but he had a new discovery. It turned out that there was a small hole at the bottom of the well, and there was quite the thing there. Looking at the edge of the hole, it was man-made. Fang Yuan's heart shook. He quickly entered this hole by controlling young thieving heaven's body. Following this hole, after 50 to 60 steps, Fang Yuan came to a small underground space that was the size of a room. This place was quite simple, but there was a bowl made from soil, and there was a spring. It was tiny, but clear water was accumulated there. There was also a dried corpse on the ground. Don't tell me that this is Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable's true fortuitous encounter in his early days. Fang Yuan was intrigued. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1493, Mysterious Sheepskin Map. Chapter 1493, Mysterious Sheepskin Map. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Inspecting it carefully, Fang Yuan did not find any traps. He slowly got closer to the dried corpse. When he was 5 or 6 steps away from it, a change occurred. Fang Yuan cursed internally because he had lost control of young thieving heaven once more. He became a spectator. Again. 1. The young thieving heaven muttered, "This person died in the well. Was he trapped by the wild beasts and could not escape?" Next, he came to the corpse. He lowered his head in respect before searching the corpse. No unexpected mishaps occurred. It was an ordinary corpse. There were no harmful traps. While searching it, young thieving heaven found that this corpse was a Gu master during his life. His rank was not low. He seemed to have a high status. He had no Gu worms left, but within the clothes that he wore, there was a sheepskin map. Young thieving heaven did not gain anything but the sheepskin map. In this underground hole, light was quite dim. Young thieving heaven only saw that the map had lines, but they were not clear. He stored the map carefully and searched the area again, but he had no discoveries. But young thieving heaven was very satisfied. Because there was a precious water source here. He was quite careful. He first checked the water quality and slowly drank a little of it after finding no problems with it. This water source was deep underground. The corpse had spent a lot of effort to create it. Young thieving heaven drank a mouthful of water. He felt a cold refreshing flow as the taste of blood in his mouth from consuming beast blood faded by a lot. Young thieving heavens gulped. This mouthful of water drew out his inner desire. He lowered his body and buried his face in the spring. Gulp, gulp. After drinking several mouthfuls, he raised his head as water splattered everywhere. He sat on the ground with a thud. Young thieving heaven did not speak. His hands were supporting the ground. His eyes were shut. After a while, he sighed deeply. After resting for a while, he stretched out his hand, wiping the water from his face as he stood up, returning to the bottom of the well. Young thieving heaven shuddered. The bottom of the well was much colder than the underground hole. But young thieving heaven had his reasons to come here. He looked up at the well. Even though there were several beast skins as cover, the night winds were very strong. One beast skin had been blown away already. A gaping hole was created. From the hole, young thieving heaven could see those stars shining high up in the night sky. He sighed as he took some beast skin and wood, quickly creating a fireplace. Next, he tried to start a fire by using friction on the wood, succeeding after several minutes. The flame was not large. The smoke flew out of the well while the heat was retained, allowing young thieving heaven to stay warm. Young thieving heaven first cooked some meat, before eating them when they were cooked. After eating cooked food and filling his stomach, he felt very drowsy. But young thieving heaven controlled his sleepiness and used the dim light to observe the sheepskin map that he had gotten. This sheepskin map must have existed for a very long time. Isn't it pointing out my clan's oasis? Young thieving heaven was shocked. The small oasis was the focus of this sheepskin map. There were even several Western desert words on it. The words were tiny and due to the effects of time, most of them were blurry already, only the first few words and some characters were still clear. Young Thieving Heaven could barely decipher them, he said uncertainly, land of buried immortal, inauspicious, curse. Strange. After a long time of observation, he could not excavate more clues, he frowned tightly. I've been in this world for over a decade, I've heard about stories of immortals from the clan elders. But these are just legends, are there really immortals in this world? This might not be impossible. Looking at Gu masters, I can see the peculiarity and mystery behind this world, anything is possible. Land of buried immortal, don't tell me that the place where I live has an immortal buried there. But why curse? And inauspicious? This sheepskin map is really strange. This world has information path Gu worms to store maps and information. That corpse must have been a strong Gu master back then, why did he use the sheepskin map instead of Gu worms? This sheepskin map was sewn into the inner layer of his clothes, if his clothes were not torn, I would not have found it. He hid it so carefully, it must be very important, but this is too risky, it is far safer to store it inside an information path Gu worm. Young Thieving Heaven muttered, his eyes flickering with deep thoughts. Fong Yuan was watching by the side, he had thought of Young Thieving Heaven's questions long ago, they were all suspicious, especially the sheepskin map. Forget about this now, this sheepskin map also points out the location of the well. If I follow it, I will be able to return to the clan. Even though Young Thieving Heaven had no sense of belonging to the clan, he knew that it was impossible to live alone in the desert. Not only was it dangerous, nobody could tell where threats could come from, and in terms of food, Young Thieving Heaven had a very limited amount of meat now. This small oasis was too weak. His eyes felt very heavy, Young Thieving Heaven's vision soon blurred as he fell into deep sleep. He was simply too tired, not just physically, but also the mental exhaustion of all that had happened. Once he slept, Fong Yuan's vision went black. In the darkness, Fong Yuan felt that the corrosion of the dream realm became several times stronger, his soul was rapidly expended. Thankfully, Fong Yuan had experienced this before, he endured it until the darkness faded. The time in the dream realm was hard to estimate, when the darkness faded, his soul foundation had been shaved by half. When his vision cleared, Fong Yuan was shocked to find out that Young Thieving Heaven was tied up at the bottom of the well. And in front of him was an elderly Gu master with a grim expression. This elderly Gu master had a wrinkled face, his hair was fully white, he was very old, right now, his crooked hands were holding onto a sheepskin map. He used his hands to caress this sheepskin map as he showed heated and greedy emotions in his eyes. His expressions made Young Thieving Heaven shudder, he might have met a lunatic. Who are you? Why did you tie me up? Young Thieving Heaven asked. He felt very aggrieved, he woke up tied and was now a captive. You should be glad that I, Xiao, have not killed you yet. The old man spoke with a hoarse voice. He carefully placed the sheepskin map into his pocket as he looked at Young Thieving Heaven. Lad, you are a member of this clan. Young Thieving Heaven did not answer. Because he understood that the elderly Gu master understood the secret and value of this sheepskin map, he did not kill him but tied him up instead because he wanted to make use of him. The elderly Gu master saw that Young Thieving Heaven was staying silent, his expression became darker as he floated towards Young Thieving Heaven like a phantom. Lad, don't think that I do not know what you are thinking if you stay silent. Heh, you have probably never heard of my name, I will teach you a lesson first. The elderly Gu master laughed sinisterly as he kicked with his leg. His leg landed on Young Thieving Heaven's chest as the intense pain almost made him fall unconscious. Young Thieving Heaven was sent flying like a rock, he crashed onto the wall of the well and fell to the ground. But the pain had just begun, Young Thieving Heaven started to scream. Because the elderly Gu master's kick was not so simple, Young Thieving Heaven felt his entire body going numb, at the same time, his muscles and organs felt like they were pricked by countless icy needles. The intense pain made Young Thieving Heaven suffer immensely, soon, he was covered in snot and tears as he curled up like a cooked prawn. Lad, do you know how powerful I am now? The elderly Gu master smiled sinisterly. He was very happy. Young thieving heaven's screams and cries made him feel a deep sense of satisfaction. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1494, Old Grandpa. Chapter 1494, Old Grandpa. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. The louder young thieving heaven screamed, the brighter the elderly Gu master's smile. But soon, young thieving heaven realized this and gritted his teeth, not uttering a sound. Brat, you still want to resist? The elderly Gu master was furious and stomped young thieving heaven's chest. Crack. Young thieving heaven's ribs immediately fractured into pieces which then pierced into his heart and lungs, immediately causing him to be on the verge of death. But he still did not utter a sound. He had almost crushed his teeth with his intense grinding, and his eyes were opened wide with anger, but he did not scream. He. The elderly Gu master started laughing from anger, and directly used Gu master methods against young thieving heaven. This time, it was not as simple as a sharp pain. Young thieving heaven felt a kind of numbing pain with all kinds of sensation attacking him in turns. He could endure it no longer. He let out a piercing scream and started struggling fiercely. He rolled on the floor while crazily scratching his skin. The elderly Gu master laughed heartily. Suffered enough? Actually daring to defy the great Xianxia, even if you have strong pride, you will still have to kneel before me. Beg for mercy. As long as you call me Grandpa Xia, Grandpa will forgive you, grandson, ahahaha. But young thieving heaven's heart was filled with nothing but fury. Xia Zhao's words triggered his pride. He inwardly vowed that even if he died from the itch, died from pain, died by rotting, or died from numbness, he would not beg for mercy. Xianxia waited for a while. Young thieving heaven was still rolling on the ground, tearing his clothes and skin, crying out in deep pain, but he did not beg for mercy. Until young thieving heaven could not endure anymore, a fierce light flashed past his eyes as he smashed headfirst into the wall of the well. He actually wants to die. Xianxia was surprised, quickly moving to stop this. Young thieving heaven's strength was useless. He could only let Xianxia manipulate him. Xianxia not only saved him, but also healed him. Soon, his heavy injuries had turned into light injuries. Kid, you have quite the backbone. Even I am feeling some admiration. Xianxia changed his tone, green light flickering in his eyes. He looked at the powerless young thieving heaven lying on the ground, and said with a soft and slow voice, "But if you die, what will your family do? I won't feel distressed about it, but what about your parents? What about your siblings? Do you have a girl you love? Does she know your feelings? If you die, what about her?" Young thieving heaven's expression began to change. He had lived for over 10 years in this world, yet he had a wanderer's mentality without any restraints. However, in his original world, he had a family, healthy parents, and a beloved fiancée. I cannot die. I need to live on. I need to find a way to leave this world and return home. There are people waiting for me there. Xianxia was an old schemer, the corners of his lips curling up slightly as he saw the change in young thieving heaven's expression. Young thieving heaven fearlessly gazed at Xianxia. You have not killed me because you want to make use of me. Speak, what do you want me to do? Xianxia laughed heartily, giving a thumbs up to young thieving heaven. Kid, you have guts. You actually dare to speak to me like that. The moment he finished speaking, Xiao's expression changed. His laughter was gone without a trace, replacing it was twisted fury. He ruthlessly kicked young thieving heaven's face, and sent him flying. He then pointed with his finger. A strange light shot out and struck young thieving heaven's body. Kai chi chi. A series of soft sounds echoed within this old well. Young thieving heaven's expression rapidly changed as he felt intense pain all over his body. He tried to stand up, but due to a lack of energy, he could only sit on the ground. His face was bloody, his nose bridge had been smashed by Sha Zhao's kick. Young Thieving Heaven started blacking out and almost fainted from the pain. With his remaining consciousness, he squinted at his hand but immediately received a huge shock. He saw his hand was festering and corroding like it had touched powerful acid. Not just the hands, his face, his arms, his neck, his whole body was starting to rot. Soon, young Thieving Heaven's eyes also started to corrode, losing his sight. Sha Zhao's sinister voice floated to his ears, "You think I need you? He, it is your fortune to be used by me. You dare show me such an attitude, so what if you die? At worst, I will just find another puppet. Ha ha ha. Now, this is your final chance. I shall give you one final opportunity. If you don't want to die, kowtow to me and call me Grandpa, obediently follow my orders. Take your time. You have been struck by my killer move anyway, your whole body will continue to rot, in a dozen or so breaths, your whole body will rot completely and only your skeleton will remain. I will give you a few kicks then and see how hard your backbone really is." Young Thieving Heaven was silent. Sha Zhao did not speak anymore after this, only looking at Young Thieving Heaven with his sinister gaze. Young Thieving Heaven was slumped on the ground, motionless like a statue. The muscles on his whole body were beginning to rot, the stench of it had already filled the well. The terrifying injuries, intense pain, and more importantly the entanglements in his heart, caused his face to distort. "I, the great Ben Jia's son, a noble army general, how could I beg for mercy? But, if I die here, do I let my loved ones in the other world wait in vain?" Sigh. Young Thieving Heaven let out a heavy sigh inwardly. He slowly adjusted his posture and knelt down, then he lowered his head till his forehead touched the ground. He spoke with a weak and rough voice, "You win." Ha ha ha. Sha Zhao laughed wildly, his eyes opened wide as he stared at Young Thieving Heaven. "Then what should you call me?" Grandpa. Young Thieving Heaven gritted his teeth, his whole body shook and hot tears rolled down from his corroded eyes. My good grandson. Sha Zhao was satisfied, his voice turned sharp like a crow's cry high above the graveyard. Young Thieving Heaven reached his limits and completely fell unconscious. Darkness descended upon Fang Yuan once again. And the dream realm fiercely corroded his soul. Fang Yuan passed this period with difficulty, his 10 million man soul had already fallen to million man soul. Exploring this dream realm of Thieving Heaven had an extremely high demand on soul foundation. Were it not for Fang Yuan cultivating his soul painstakingly before, he would not have the qualifications to explore this dream realm. With the passing of time, the darkness disappeared, Fang Yuan could see once again. The blazing sun was high in the sky, Young Thieving Heaven was moving across the desert while dragging his extremely weak body. Those terrifying injuries on him were all gone without a trace. But there were several new injuries which looked like lacerations inflicted by fangs and claws of wild beasts. "Kid, listen properly, when you return to the clan, probe the situation for your grandpa. Wait, Grandpa will bring a few desert wolves to you, if you are going to put on a show, you should go all the way. Grandpa will not help you, if you can't escape the wolves, you can only blame yourself. Oh, remember not to speak carelessly. Grandpa's killer move is in your body, you have already tasted the feeling of a rotting body. As long as I will it, your internal organs and your brain will immediately rot, be obedient, Grandpa won't mistreat you, my good grandson." Sha Zhao's figure was nowhere to be seen, but Young Thieving Heaven's ears were resonating with his voice. The moment his words finished, several desert wolves rushed out from a sand dune. These desert wolves had short and thin fur, they were pale brown and not that big but were extremely ferocious. They howled to signal the attack as they rushed towards Young Thieving Heaven. Young Thieving Heaven did not budge as he looked at the distance between him and the desert wolves shrinking rapidly. Fang Yuan was baffled before suddenly reacting, he cursed inwardly while quickly attempting to control Young Thieving Heaven. Just like he expected, he had once again gained control of this body. Fang Yuan quickly ran while looking into his aperture to see if there were any goo worms that he could use to fight. A sandpit Gu, a chimney smoke Gu, and a clear water Gu. There was only over 10% of green copper primeval essence left. Those cool wind Gu and other Gu he had gathered after painstaking efforts were all gone. Looks like Xiao did not want to expose that small oasis and the well, so he destroyed all the relevant clues on Thieving Heaven. Damn it, clear water Gu is of no use here. Only sandpit Gu and chimney smoke Gu can be relied upon. Just as Fang Yuan thought of this, he suddenly felt wind at the back of his head. Without even thinking, he leaped to the left. At the next moment, a desert wolf had pounced on Fang Yuan's previous location. It fell unstably to the ground, rolling some distance away. Fang Yuan almost fell to the ground. If he fell down, those rushing desert wolves would definitely pounce at him and give him no chance to get up. At the crucial moment, Fang Yuan propped his arms up on the sand and exerted strength on them to forcibly push his weak body forward. He barely maintained his balance and continued to run. Not even a few steps later, another desert wolf had caught up to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan quickly activated Sandpit Gu. This rank 1 Gu expended 5% of his green copper primeval essence, instantly forming a pit in the desert. The second desert wolf had just been about to exert strength on its legs to pounce at Fang Yuan's back, but a sandpit appeared out of nowhere as it stepped into it. Because it had exerted too much strength, this desert wolf lost its balance and fell face flat on the ground. But the third desert wolf quickly rushed over and had already leaped to the air. This desert wolf was extremely cunning. It had wild Gu on it which caused its movement to be without any sound. Fang Yuan simply didn't have time to look back, but he saw the shadow on the desert surface ahead. The third desert wolf's shadow was pouncing at his shadow's head. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth. There was no use in activating Gu worms at this moment and he also had no time to dodge. However, his rich battle experience helped him make the most sensible choice at this moment. Evading the worst. Although he could not dodge properly, he had to evade the worst. Fang Yuan intentionally inched his right shoulder to the wolf. Puff! The third desert wolf pounced at Fang Yuan, its sharp claws piercing through Fang Yuan's right shoulder and cutting out few pieces of flesh. But Fang Yuan did not stop at all, he continued to run madly. By this time, the first and second desert wolves had already regained their footing and caught up. At this critical juncture, Fang Yuan put all his primeval essence in chimney smoke Gu. This Gu worm was originally used to smoke food, but right now, it was being used by Fang Yuan to cope with this emergency and it furthermore produced a brilliant effect. The dense smoke obstructed the three desert wolves' eyes and noses as Fang Yuan took this chance to pull apart some distance from the wolves. But this was only a dying struggle. The three desert wolves soon broke through the smoke and caught up to Fang Yuan. Am I going to fail? This difficulty is too high. Fang Yuan was already at his wit's end, but right at this time, an electric chain brushed past Fang Yuan's cheek and struck the three desert wolves, instantly roasting them. The clansmen! Fang Yuan was joyous as he recognized who had arrived. But young Thieving Heaven was already at his physical limits, fainting once again. The expected darkness did not appear. Fang Yuan surprisingly discovered his soul was floating in the air, out of the dream realm. More accurately, this scene of Thieving Heaven's dream realm that had shrouded his soul had already disappeared. So it's like this, I successfully explored the first stage of the dream realm. Fang Yuan was stumped before quickly realizing. Amazing, my theft path attainment has directly soared to Grandmaster level. Fang Yuan was overjoyed. Although his soul foundation had greatly reduced, the harvest was similarly huge. Indeed worthy of being Thieving Heaven's dream realm, just passing the first stage raised Fang Yuan's theft path to Grandmaster level. How terrifying would it be if he continued the exploration? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1495, Resting. Chapter 1495, Resting. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Inside the immortal Gu formation, Fang Yuan was sitting cross-legged with closed eyes, cultivating quietly. He Lu Lan and the rest along with Tang Fangming were in control of this immortal formation. Fang Yuan was calculating his gains and losses. The gains from exploring Thieving Heaven's dream realm were huge. Not only did I test Heaven's will dissipation and obtained a satisfactory result, my theft path attainment has soared to Grandmaster level. But, I had to pay a huge price for this. My 10 million man soul has now fallen to million man soul, the loss is great. I had thought I would use Unravel Dream frequently, but who could have expected Unravel Dream to not provide me much help in this dream realm? From this dream realm exploration, Fang Yuan realized one point. He might have Unravel Dream, but this method was not all-powerful. Unravel Dream was used very few times, so my immortal essence expenditure is little, but my Guts Gu expenditure has instead increased enormously. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan slowly opened his eyes and took out Guts Gu, using them on the spot. So many Guts Gu. Tang Fangming's eyes opened wide, revealing clear envy and desire. He had also explored the dream realm many times, knowing the outstanding advantage of Guts Gu. He was barely able to purchase some Guts Gu as supply was lower than demand, but now he was looking at Fang Yuan using Guts Gu as casually as eating candy. Oh, he is the sole Guts Gu seller after all. Tang Fangming lamented inwardly. At the same time, his gaze landed on Thieving Heaven's dream realm. Thieving Heaven's dream realm was enormous like a mountain and was still letting out eerie blue radiance, but right now, a large piece of the base of this mountain had disappeared. This was the result of Fang Yuan successfully passing through the first stage. Tang Fangming heaved a sigh. He had already explored and researched this dream realm of Thieving Heaven for hundreds of times, maybe even 1,000 times, but his accumulated achievements were not even a fraction of Fang Yuan's one exploration. Tang Fangming was recognized in Tang clan as a pioneer of exploring dream realms. He had a lot of accomplishments, creating many dream realm mortal Gu. But compared to Fang Yuan's achievements, he paled in comparison. Tang Fangming felt ashamed, but beyond that, he felt even more admiration towards Fang Yuan. After a moment of stillness, Fang Yuan suddenly opened his eyes. A sharp light flashed past his dark eyes. By using Guts Gu without regarding the expenditure, Fang Yuan's soul foundation once again rose to 10 million man soul. He previously had 9 million man soul, but with the corrosion from this dream realm, his soul quality had risen once again and gave a slight feeling of being even more condensed. Looks like the dream realm's corrosion of the soul has some supplementary effect in soul cultivation. But if it is examined carefully, the effect is not high, and is far inferior to Luo Pa Valley. Dang Hun Mountain and Luo Pa Valley were the two sacred lands of soul cultivation proclaimed by spectral soul demon venerable. They were not resources that ordinary things could replace. But it did not matter, Fang Yuan had brought Luo Pa Valley with him in this trip to Western Desert. Before he made this trip from Eastern Sea to Western Desert, he had considered everything properly. With his astute nature, how could he not make ample preparations? As for Dang Hun Mountain, there is treasure yellow heaven to transport Guts Gu, it is the same whether I bring it or not. Actually, it was not that Fang Yuan did not want to bring it. But it had a huge demand on heaven and earth chi in the immortal aperture. Currently, his sovereign immortal aperture had reverse flow river, Luo Pa Valley, and city well. Every 3 days, he had to devour large amounts of external heaven and earth chi to replenish his expenditure. If they were not replenished in time, the sovereign immortal aperture's foundation would weaken, causing a reduction in resource production, including time and space aspects. In severe cases, it might even cause sovereign immortal aperture to crumble. The difficulty in exploring Thieving Heaven's dream realm is too high. The first stage is already so troubling, the second stage will definitely be even more difficult. With this comprehension, Fang Yuan decided to first increase his soul foundation by another level before he continued exploring the dream realm. As such, over the next period of time, he quietly concentrated on cultivating soul path. Because of the continuous supply of Daoist Gu, Fang Yuan's soul foundation rose rapidly. Just as Fang Yuan was cultivating soul path in preparation for exploring the second stage, in Eastern Sea, Qin Yu Zhicheng was meeting Qin Yu clan's first supreme elder to request for help. Zhicheng, looks like you are really determined to take the risk for Qin Baihe. The old first supreme elder looked at this descendant who he was rather fond of and said with a sigh. Yes, I have made up my mind, I hope first supreme elder can help me. Qin Yu Zhicheng said firmly. But first supreme elder slowly shook his head, it is not yet the time for me to be involved in this matter. Moreover, the truth is not out yet, even if I make a move, I won't be able to give you much help. Qin Yu Zhicheng felt strange, how could first supreme elder, a grand rank 8 Gu immortal, be unable to give much help in this matter? But first supreme elder told him of something which immediately made him understand. Junior thanks first supreme elder for the guidance, I shall now go ask for help. Qin Yu Zhicheng was joyous. Go, go. First supreme elder chuckled, waving his hand. Qin Yu Zhicheng immediately flew out of the clan's headquarters and moved towards Nangong clan's territory. Qin Yu clan's first supreme elder had told him that whether Qin Baihe and Yu Chan were alive or not was unclear at this moment. What situation they encountered was also unclear, so what he should do was to find a wisdom path Gu immortal to help investigate the truth. Only by knowing what happened to these two female immortals could they find the culprit and take revenge. And the wisdom path Gu immortal who was most suitable for this was none other than one of the three current wisdom path experts, the one hiding in Nangong, wisdom path Gu immortal Huan. This person had a close relationship with Yu Chan, if Yu Chan was in trouble, he would definitely help. Qin Yu Zhicheng felt first supreme elder's analysis was correct, he immediately moved to request help from Huan. But midway, he came across a rank 6 Gu immortal of Nangong clan. This Gu immortal brought a message from Huan, young master Zhicheng, Lord Huan already deduced that you would look for him, so he sent me to welcome you. He is waiting just ahead. Qin Yu Zhicheng was overjoyed while also sighing in admiration of Huan's ability. After a while, the two met. Huan spoke, I will be honest with you, Fairy Yu Chan came to request my help not long ago, but unfortunately I was unable to be of help. Huan and Qin Yu Zhicheng exchanged information, and naturally, their first suspect was Fang Yuan. Because with Yu Chan's death, Fang Yuan, who was in the dragonfish business, would benefit the most. Unfortunately, they did not have Heavenly Court's guidance, and only knew that mysterious Gu immortal who was selling dragonfish in Treasure Yellow Heaven was the most suspicious and had motive as well, but they did not know this person was Fang Yuan. I have been continuously deducing the past few days, I am afraid Yu Chan and Qin Baihe's situation is less than optimistic. Huan said with a heavy expression, this time, I am going to request help from the other two wisdom path experts, we will combine our strength and attempt to deduce the culprit. Qin Yu Zhicheng however shook his head at Huan's words. No, I believe the two fairies are still alive, they are not dead. Lord Huan, please think carefully, the two fairies are rank 7 experts, who could easily kill them. Huan understood Qin Yu Zhicheng's feelings and mood, nodding consolingly, your words are also reasonable. He then changed the topic and said, I have a plan, we might as well spread news about the deaths of the two fairies. If they are still alive, they will definitely know we are looking for them and want to help them. If they are being hunted by the culprit, once these rumors spread, the culprit will be confused and will turn his attention towards us. Great plan. Qin Yu Zhicheng clapped his hands and praised. Time passed, soon, half a month went by. Fang Yuan's soul foundation had increased to 90 million man soul, only a slight distance away from 100 million man soul. In this period of time, he did not practice any immortal killer moves, instead spending his energy and time mainly in soul path cultivation. With this, his progress was naturally much higher than before. Although Daoist Gu were being constantly expended, causing him to lose huge profits and also wasting his capital, Fang Yuan's financial situation was instead slowly turning better. The reason for this was the dragonfish business. Fang Yuan killed Yu Chan and Qin Bai He. Even if Heavenly Court wanted to stop his progress, they were powerless to do so for some time. In Treasure Yellow Heaven's market, Fang Yuan was now the #1 overlord in terms of dragonfish business. No one could rival him. Thus, his dragonfish business was becoming increasingly bustling, especially the silver dragonfish which spurred crazed sales. The individual price was increasing at an alarming rate. The noteworthy thing is that news of Yu Chan's and Qin Bai He's deaths has already spread in Eastern Sea. Looks like someone is plotting from the shadows. Forget about it, the important thing now is thieving Heaven's dream realm. With 90 million man soul, Fang Yuan was very confident. After resting for one more day, he entered the dream realm again to explore the second stage of thieving Heaven's confusing dream realm. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1496, Blurred Gray Eyes. Chapter 1496, Blurred Gray Eyes. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. After he was done resting and making sufficient preparation, Fang Yuan entered thieving Heaven's dream realm. There was the clamoring of people around the pool where a market gathering was being held. Western Desert actually had a lot of resources, more than Northern Plains. There were large amounts of resources hidden in the desert, including goo worms and wild beasts. They only had scarce amounts of plants, which was their biggest shortcoming. So this market mainly sold food products like milk and wine, goo materials like beast skins, bones, and only 3 stalls were selling goo worms. Young Thieving Heaven was roaming around in the crowd. He observed the transactions in the surrounding while moving closer to the pool at the center of the clan. Stop! Unauthorized people are not allowed entry here. Kid, get lost. When young Thieving Heaven got near to the pool, 2 guards guarding the area immediately responded and stopped him. Young Thieving Heaven could do nothing other than to pretend to have received a shock and leave. He sighed inwardly. That pool is the only water source in the oasis. It is strictly guarded, and even though they open a market gathering, the guards are quite alert. I simply cannot get in. At the same time, Sha Zhao's sinister voice resounded in his mind. Think of whatever ways you can to get in. Don't forget, there is only a month or so left from our agreed time limit. If by then, you have not made any progress, that will be the time of your death. Young Thieving Heaven's pupils shrunk as he replied inwardly, aren't you powerful? Why don't you directly charge in or sneak in? Why let a weak guy like me gather information? You want to goad me? How could I fall for your plan? Moreover, you don't understand anything. I also don't have the patience to explain to you. Grandson. Quick, do as Grandpa says, talk less and do more work, then you can live a bit longer. Young Thieving Heaven could only let himself be manipulated. The enemy was strong while he was weak. He did not speak anymore, except that sharp light flickered in his eyes. Previously in the well, to survive and for the hope of returning to his home, he was forced to give in to Sha Xiao. But inwardly, he had never accepted this fate. I know when to yield and when not to. There will be a day when I will find a chance to not only escape the shackles of this old demon Sha Xiao, but also reciprocate all my sufferings. But right now, I need to endure. I need to put on a show and wait for my chance. Over the next few days, young Thieving Heaven thought of every way possible and exhausted all his strength to gather intel and try to get near the oasis pool. But all his attempts failed. The pool was the most important area in the clan. It was guarded extremely tightly. Young Thieving Heaven had only just advanced to rank 1, his means were truly lacking. Just as he was unable to find a way, news spread among his peers. What, half a month later, the clan is holding a small-scale competition, and the winner can choose a goo worm from the pool as a reward. Young Thieving Heaven also heard of this news. He immediately realized his opportunity was here. Moreover, this was probably the best opportunity for him to complete Sha Zhao's task. I need to participate in this small competition and also obtain victory. Young Thieving Heaven said to Sha Xiao in his mind. Sha Xiao snickered, silly kid, don't think I don't know what plot you are scheming inside. You want to use this to raise your strength to overturn my control. Young Thieving Heaven sneered, admitting frankly, so what? Who doesn't thirst for freedom? Good. Xianxia was unfazed, instead praising, you are quite straightforward, if you call me Grandpa, I can help you seize this victory. You. Young Thieving Heaven stiffened, his eyes revealing anger. What, you don't want to? Think properly, without my help, with your strength and aptitude, how can you win this competition? Xianxia sneered. Young Thieving Heaven's expression darkened. I was born as a noble, my life was filled with glory, but I have to bend my back and beg for mercy. This is a humiliation to my ancestry, I am ruining the reputation of my Sun clan. But if I don't do this, I truly won't have any hope. I am too weak, returning home is an uncertainty. If I can't even get through this juncture, there is no need to talk about the future. Damn it! Young Thieving Heaven clenched his fists, falling into extreme hesitation. Although he had called Xianxia Grandpa before, that was during the moment of life and death. Right now, he and Xianxia were separated, and there was also not much external pressure which made Young Thieving Heaven waver, the choice became extremely heavy and painful. Grandpa. Finally, he chose to yield, squeezing out this word through clenched teeth. Ha ha ha. Xiaoxiao's crazed laughter filled Young Thieving Heaven's mind, my good grandson, since you called me Grandpa, Grandpa won't let you fail. Grandpa is giving you this method to succeed, accept it and turn it to your strength, you shall definitely win this competition. Right as Xiaoxiao finished speaking, a huge amount of information charged into Young Thieving Heaven's brain. Young Thieving Heaven immediately gave a low gasp, his expression distorted and he subconsciously held his head. The huge amount of information continued to strike his brain, he felt so much pain that his head felt like it would burst. The information attack only lasted for a short 9 breaths of time, but Young Thieving Heaven felt like a year had passed. He endured it with difficulty, his whole body was covered in sweat, his face was deathly pale like paper, and he was shaking, looking extremely miserable. Xia Zhao's method was violent, but the transferred information were all authentic and of great value. Most of the contents were about fighting techniques, they were exquisite and concise. A portion was about Gu recipes and usage method of Gu worms, and there was even a killer move. Mortal killer move, blurred gray eyes. This move was formed by using sandpit Gu, chimney smoke Gu, and clear water Gu. There were 8 steps to it, and once it was activated successfully, it could puff out white smoke. When this smoke landed in someone's eyes, it would cover their eyes in white ash, making them lose their sight. The person who was struck absolutely should not use water to clean their eyes, if water was used, the white ash would produce high heat that would burn the target's eyes and make them go blind. This move is so insidious, it is not my style. Young Thieving Heaven's heart sank, he did not look happy. Before his transmigration, he had been born in a noble family, receiving good education since childhood. He was upright and honest, he abhorred evil. Because of this, when he transmigrated and became a poor orphan, he still abided by rules and maintained his morals, even when he had an adult's wisdom and things were unsatisfactory. Blurred gray eyes needs 3 Gu worms, and they just happen to be all the Gu I have. Looks like Xiao had already planned to increase my strength. Humph. Young Thieving Heaven did not want to practice blurred gray eyes, he put his whole concentration in the fighting techniques. He had been a warrior in his previous life as well, although he did not specialize in close combat, he had some foundation. His true battle attainment was deep enough. Thus, he was able to smoothly progress with these fighting techniques. After a few days of practicing, Young Thieving Heaven felt his battle strength had soared. This world's fighting techniques are not simple, but a complete set of moves involving Gu worms. Different kind of moves for different kind of Gu worms. I had no one to instruct me before, so I was too weak to do anything. Now that I have obtained this skill and have practiced it diligently, I have a 60% chance of winning the clan's competition. Even if I don't use blurred gray eyes, I can take care of most competitors. Young Thieving Heaven had an aversion to this unscrupulous move and did not want to use it. He was confident in himself, and soon welcomed the clan's small competition. When he first stepped on the stage, the audience did not think highly of him. There were even some who ridiculed him. And his opponent had an expression of arrogance as he pointed towards young thieving Heaven's nose. "So it is you, trash, surrender now and I won't break your leg." Young thieving Heaven was dazed, standing on the spot without moving. The audience started laughing loudly. "He is afraid, he can't even move. Look at him, how did he pass the clan's exile test? Probably luck. I heard that at the crucial moment, he was rescued from the wolves' mouths by the clan's Gu master." Under this atmosphere, young thieving Heaven's opponent seemed to be even more disdainful. But at the next moment, young thieving Heaven clenched his fists, feeling the strength in his fingers. "I finally have control again." Fong Yuan was inwardly happy. It turned out that young thieving Heaven's dazed expression was because Fong Yuan had just gained control and had not reacted. Now that he came to his senses, he immediately attacked. Mortal killer move, blurred gray eyes. Whoosh, a large clump of white ash was puffed out at his opponent's face. The opponent could not defend in time, quickly retreating 3 steps before crying out, "Ah! I can't see anything, what is this thing? Get lost!" Fong Yuan took a few large strides before giving a fierce kick to his opponent's face. His opponent was directly kicked out of the stage. Victory! If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1497, Deep Pain Despite Victory. Chapter 1497, Deep Pain Despite Victory. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Despicable, too despicable, he is actually sneak attacking. This guy is too nasty, he is truly hateful. According to both sides' strength, he was clearly slightly weaker. The surrounding people started denouncing young thieving Heaven. You. That opponent climbed up from the ground, and stuttered due to anger while pointing towards the air, "You're shameless. If you have guts, then, let's compete again." However, his sight was blurry because of the killer move, and he did not know where Fong Yuan was at all, so his finger was pointing at a completely wrong direction, making for a hilarious situation. Fong Yuan sneered, "Winner takes all, what is there to compete about?" Fong Yuan could not speak anymore, because he once again turned into an observer, losing control over this body. Thieving Heaven's dream realm continued once more. Young thieving Heaven gazed at the surrounding crowd and at the raving opponent below the stage. His face was pale and his whole body was shaking. He slowly raised his hands in shock. Why did I directly use that killer move, blurred gray eyes? I clearly have strength to compete with him fairly, then throw him off the stage. But why did I choose to sneak attack? Young thieving Heaven abhorred actions like sneak attacking, he felt this was a shameful thing. Why did he sneak attack? He liked fighting openly, and would not resort to such insidious schemes. He did not like, or more accurately, he disdained this kind of action. But then why did he do so? Sha Zhao's mad laughter resounded in his mind, "Ha ha ha. Too funny, too entertaining, my good grandson, you indeed resemble your grandpa me. You clearly had not trained blurred gray eyes killer move, but you were still able to use it so smoothly. The sneak attack timing was also quite good, clinching victory at once. Good, very good." Sha Zhao repeatedly praised. Young thieving Heaven was stunned. That's right, he had not practiced this killer move, so why did he use it? And why was his usage so skillful? This is ridiculous. Young thieving Heaven roared inwardly. Ha ha ha, my good grandson, let grandpa tell you the reason. You were originally such a person, your nature is like this, don't restrain yourself, let out your true nature. Sha Zhao laughed loudly, adding insult to the injury. Young thieving Heaven was deeply shocked, but soon his eyes flashed brightly. No, this is not my doing. It is you, right? You controlled my body. Although I can do that, I did not do it. This was your own choice, you should be clear of it. No, it was definitely you, how could I do such a thing? Young thieving Heaven clung to his own view. Bullshit. Sha Xiao scolded loudly. But young Thieving Heaven's expression looked quite firm on the surface, as he walked off the stage while quarreling inwardly. However, in the audience's view, his behavior looked quite arrogant and seemed like he did not regard their criticisms, thus they started scolding even louder. It was the observer Fang Yuan's turn to feel shaken. He had been the one in control during the fight, but the outcome had directly influenced the following event of the dream realm. Young Thieving Heaven's shock and the change in the audience's attitude would no doubt influence the way the dream realm would play out and progress. This was a situation Fang Yuan had never encountered before while exploring dream realms. In his past explorations, although his participation rate was higher than in Thieving Heaven's dream realm, the dream realm as a whole did not change. The dream realm's outcome was set, and the passing standard was also fixed. But this dream realm of Thieving Heaven gives me a feeling of living through it. This is not ordinary. According to its categorization, this kind of dream realm was a realistic dream realm. It restored Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable's life experiences. But following Fang Yuan's continuous participation, this dream realm might deviate and change. As these deviations accumulated, would the final outcome of the dream realm be different from the original? Fang Yuan realized this and could not help but become more wary and cautious. Soon, it was his turn to battle again. You don't look like a vile person. But in the previous round, why did you use despicable methods to plot against my younger cousin? This time, young Thieving Heaven's opponent was a girl who looked to be full of heroic spirit. Young Thieving Heaven frowned. He did not want to explain but still said, "There is a misunderstanding." "Heh, misunderstanding? Humph, you clearly sneak attacked, you actually don't admit it. So many people witnessed it, this guy actually wants to deny it." The crowd, outside of the stage, shouted in fury. The young girl frowned. "I don't care whether it was a misunderstanding or not, I am going to avenge my cousin. So not only am I going to defeat you, I am going to make sure you suffer enough. Come." The young girl charged forward. "Wait a moment." Young Thieving Heaven suddenly held out his hands. "I still have something to say, hear me out before you make a move." "What is it? Speak up, I will make you admit your defeat completely." The young girl snorted, stopping her footsteps. But at this moment, young Thieving Heaven's eyes suddenly shone sinisterly as he raised his hand. Mortal killer move, blurred gray eyes. The young girl had been on guard, but this white ash actually passed through her defensive methods and directly covered her eyes. Damn it, again. This kid is playing dirty again. Careful, he is coming, quickly defend yourself. The crowd started shouting with all their strength. But by now, young Thieving Heaven had already neared the young girl and raised his right leg, about to kick this girl out. The young girl actually had good battle experiences, although she could not see, her ears were moving as she listened to the wind to determine his position. "I cannot see, if this match is dragged on, it will be unfavorable to me. I must finish this quickly." At this instant, the young girl made a wise choice. She gave a soft cry and instead of retreating, she directly punched at young Thieving Heaven. Whoosh! The wind blew from the impact of her fist, moving young Thieving Heaven's hair. This attack was fierce, it clearly used a goo worm and was not something that could be produced by just a mortal body. If young Thieving Heaven had really kicked at the previous moment, he would not have been able to restrain his momentum right now, he would have been heavily injured by these two punches. But at this moment, young Thieving Heaven was not himself, but was controlled by Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan's thoughts were sinister, he looked like he was about to kick the girl, but it was in fact just a feint. On one hand, he was probing the young girl, after all even if sight was blurred, there were other investigative methods, the goo world was not lacking in all kinds of fantastic methods. On the other hand, Fang Yuan was using the audience. These people's shouts and reminders were actually misleading the girl. The young girl's sight was blurred, and in the intense battle, she likely did not have time to think much and would subconsciously feel the surrounding people's reminders to be correct. After all, there were a lot of people in the audience while the young girl was alone. Humans had a herd mentality. When many people believed something was correct, the young girl would likely believe it to be true as well. Sure enough, like Fang Yuan expected, the young girl started punching and going on the offense. Fang Yuan scoffed, calmly pulling back his right leg and easily dodging, then he smoothly caught the young girl's hand and pulled her to the side. The young girl wanted to win immediately and had used too much strength, which was instead used by Fang Yuan to counterattack. Fang Yuan took this chance to strike the young girl's lower abdomen fiercely with his knee. Bam! A soft sound was heard, as the young girl was badly hurt. Her shut eyes opened in pain, her gorgeous fair face flushed red at that instant, and blue veins popped up on her forehead. She felt her large intestine and internal organs were tangled together, the pain almost causing her to stop breathing. But before she could experience this intense pain again, Fang Yuan landed a chop at the back of the young girl's neck. In an instant, the young girl lost her consciousness. Thud, she fell to the ground and did not move. Fang Yuan won. The surrounding crowd was silent for a moment before they erupted. Despicable, too despicable. He actually won like this is so shameless. He is too shameless, a pity that his opponent was so innocent, she clearly had higher strength but actually fell for his trick. The audience was furious and contemptuous towards young thieving heaven, while feeling pity and regret for the young girl. Their loud shouts could be heard without end for a while. What have I done? Was it me again? Fang Yuan was once again an observer, while young thieving heaven was once again stunned. Ha ha ha, it is you, you did it all. Xiao laughed freely, I haven't done anything, you have understood it, right? The whole battle process was your own choice. No, this is not true. How could I be such a scumbag? Young thieving heaven closed his eyes from the agony, even his eyelids were slightly twitching. You are indeed a scumbag, but Grandpa appreciates that. You quickly and efficiently resolved the battle, victory was clean and fast. Your shamelessness and despicable nature is just like me back when I was young. Xiao started laughing loudly once again. What the hell is going on? What's wrong with me? Young thieving heaven almost cried, all his glory and values accumulated from his previous life received a huge impact. I once heard a saying, some people possess innate battle talent. When they enter battle state, they would often have creative thoughts as well as keen intuition, all kinds of factors could let them dig out their deepest self, and make the most natural choice, striving for victory with all their strength. Young thieving heaven. Like this, young thieving heaven continued to win in the small competition. Every battle, Fang Yuan would replace young thieving heaven and take control of the whole battle. Although the opponents were vigilant, what kind of person was Fang Yuan? His battle experiences could be said to be as vast as the sea. These small fry opponents, even just a shift in their gaze would let Fang Yuan see through their schemes and thoughts. As far as Fang Yuan was concerned, these victories were without any difficulty. But to young thieving heaven, it was an extremely painful journey. Could it be that deep down inside, I am really such a person? In my previous life, because I was protected in a mecha, I did not receive enough stimulation. So in this world, now that I am personally fighting, my true nature has emerged. I have such a nature. I have shamed my clan, shamed my teacher's teachings, and shamed my family name. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1498, Desire to Lose. Chapter 1498, Desire to Lose. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Inside the Dream Realm. On the stage, Fang Yuan was controlling young thieving heaven, fighting a rather difficult battle. This time, his opponent was a tall and sturdy youngster. The youngster's hands were in a knife hand pose, and with each chop, his hands would let out a flash of lightning that shot towards Fang Yuan. This youngster was one of the most popular candidates to win the contest. If he were fighting an ordinary boy, they might already be struck by the lightning and piss themselves, losing the match immediately. But he was facing Fong Yuan. Young Thieving Heaven's methods were simply not enough to dodge the lightning attacks. But Fong Yuan's experienced eyes were paying close attention to every movement of his opponent. When his opponent raised his hand, Fong Yuan could deduce the direction of the attack by observing the change in his shoulder movement, the direction of his sight, and the center of his body weight. As a result, Fong Yuan was able to dodge every lightning attack, making strange dodging movements in others' eyes. "Do you only know how to dodge?" his opponent shouted impatiently. "Hee, catch me if you can. Come, beat me." Fong Yuan mocked his opponent. Sure enough, the immature opponent got furious, charging towards Fong Yuan. "Fight me if you have guts, you rascal." But Fong Yuan still kept on dodging. Even the audience could not endure this, as they hooted and criticized Fong Yuan's actions as cowardly. Someone even shouted, "The strength difference is so big, just surrender. You despicable guy." However, Fong Yuan just kept on continuing his way like he had heard nothing. Although he was dodging, he was in fact controlling the tempo of the battle. His opponent did not have rich battle experience, after all, he was too young, and fell into Fong Yuan's rhythm without even being aware of it. The youngster fought for long, his primeval essence was mostly consumed as he gasped for breath from exhaustion. Nice, time to counterattack. Fong Yuan finally got the opportunity he was waiting for, and immediately went on the offensive. What? His opponent reacted too late, and was soon receiving a beating from Fong Yuan. But the youngster still had some primeval essence, he was able to resist with difficulty. Fong Yuan inwardly realized the situation was bad. Young Thieving Heaven's aptitude was too low, only having D-grade aptitude, so he had small primeval essence reserve. After this long, the amount of primeval essence Fong Yuan had was even lower than his opponent who had been fiercely attacking since the start. "I must finish this quickly." At this thought, Fong Yuan immediately shouted, "Come, you stupid kid, have a taste of my spit." He then opened his mouth, spitting out his phlegm directly at his opponent's face. His opponent's eyes immediately opened wide. If this landed on his face, it would be too disgusting. The youngster quickly dodged. But this was what Fong Yuan wanted. He wanted to force his opponent to dodge in this direction. Time to go down. Fong Yuan suddenly moved forward like a nimble cat and appeared in front of the opponent before he threw a powerful high kick. That youngster already brought up his arms like a shield to block Fong Yuan's kick. But Fong Yuan was too powerful and directly sent him flying out of the stage. Fong Yuan won. This kid actually won. How can this possibly happen? Disgusting, he actually spat, this is too uncouth. Right, even though he won, I also despise him. He doesn't even have a little demeanor, he is simply not qualified to be a Gu master. The audience engaged in heated discussions. Sneers and criticisms gathered into sounds that entered Fong Yuan's ears wave after wave. Fong Yuan, however, had already lost control of the body, and it was the reappearance of the true Young Thieving Heaven. Young Thieving Heaven experienced this battle personally, victory had truly not been easy. After all, Young Thieving Heaven was alone, while his opponent had some background, probably having Gu master parents, or at least one of them being a Gu master. Those who could participate in this small competition were all youngsters who had just become Gu masters. They had almost non-existent foundation and were only rank 1, so they could easily use external force to raise their battle strength. Thus, those born with golden spoons or silver spoons had more or less received support and guidance from their seniors who raised their battle strength. This was the reason Fong Yuan faced difficulty in the battle. There was also another reason. Fong Yuan's fighting style was already widely known, his opponents were very vigilant and would make meticulous preparations for the battle, making it hard for Fong Yuan to fight properly. How could I have spat? Young Thieving Heaven stood at the center of the stage, almost crying from shame. In the previous life, he had all along paid heavy attention to his bearing, he absolutely would not do an uncivilized thing like spitting everywhere. But in this battle, not only did he do it, but also did it so grandly and brazenly in front of so many people. What was young thieving heaven supposed to feel now? How could I be this kind of person? Is this really me in the depths of my heart? Young thieving heaven fell into a profound self-doubt and denial. The audience was still ridiculing. This kid must be feeling thrilled, right? This kind of garbage is actually entering the top 8. Humph, social morals are degrading day by day, this kind of person should be thrown out of the competition. But top 8 is the limit, I really don't want to see him continue to win. Young thieving heaven. He really wanted to clarify the situation and tell everyone that he was not that kind of person. But he could not say anything, because even he was shaken and doubting himself. His values and the sense of glory ingrained in him in his previous life were being struck time and again. Right now, they were already distorted beyond recognition. This is good too, I also don't want to continue. With this win, I am now in top 8 and can enter the pool. Young thieving heaven was tired, mentally tired. He did not want to continue fighting any longer. Bufang Yuan had another thought on this. Top 8, top 4, top 2, and the winner, they are clearly structured and will obtain different rewards from the clan. Although this is a dream realm and not reality, if I help young thieving heaven obtain a better ranking, I can no doubt obtain a better reward. And these rewards will probably continue on to the next events, making this dream realm's young thieving heaven stronger. This dream realm of thieving heaven was extraordinary, it was very flexible and did not have a fixed endpoint. Thus, the stronger the young thieving heaven got, the bigger his influence in the dream realm, and the more convenient Fang Yuan's exploration of this dream realm will be. Unravel Dream did not have good effect in exploring thieving heaven's dream realm, which was akin to handicapping Fang Yuan. So Fang Yuan wanted to increase the chances to raise his success in exploring the dream realm. This second stage is much lengthier than the first stage, should attempt to fight for first place. This is also a test towards this dream realm. Fang Yuan pondered for a while and made up his mind. But although his idea was good, the opportunity and time to control young thieving heaven were limited. Fang Yuan could only patiently wait for the opportunity. The dream realm continued. Young thieving heaven had obtained victory, but what he gained were a bad reputation and huge external pressure. Other youngsters were actively preparing for the competition, gathering information on their opponents, but young thieving heaven was immersed in self-reflection. In fact, he was afraid to face himself, this self-doubt was torturous. This caused young thieving heaven to become thinner day by day, slowly becoming depressed. Xia Zhao's voice was transmitted, "Grandson, you should refine Gu. Without a new Gu worm, it will be difficult for you to deal with your upcoming opponents, your chances of defeat will be higher." Refining mortal Gu and refining immortal Gu were two completely different concepts. Especially when refining a rank 1 Gu worm, the success rate was rather high. I can't directly supply you with any physical materials, I cannot give you Gu worms as well. You need to refine it yourself to deceive the others and not let them discover me. Xia Xiao added. When he finished speaking, he transferred a huge amount of information to young thieving heaven's brain. Young thieving heaven's expression, however, changed to agitation when he looked at the contents. "No, this Gu worm is too sinister, it actually needs me to kill an infant and use their soul as a Gu material. I won't commit such an heinous act. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1499, Thieving Heaven's Bottom Line. Chapter 1499, Thieving Heaven's Bottom Line. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Xia Xiao gave a Gu recipe to young thieving heaven, but the latter's expression changed and refused to refine the Gu. Xia Xiao's gloomy voice transmitted, "Grandson, you don't want to listen to Grandpa? Do you want to live or not?" Young thieving heaven, however, persisted, "Who doesn't want to live? But I have my bottom line. This Gu recipe is too vicious, I refuse to follow it. Xiao, didn't you want me to get near that pool? Now that I am in top 8, I have the qualifications to enter it, don't you think it is a pity if you kill me now? Ha ha ha. Xiao laughed, yeah, it is a pity. The words had just landed when young Thieving Heaven's pupils shrunk rapidly as he felt an intense pain attacking his body. Pain, pain, pain. At that instant, he almost collapsed on the ground. But he endured with all his strength and rushed to a dark corner. He then leaned his back to the wall and endured with clenched teeth. Xiao's voice once more transmitted, "You are just a small pawn, you really think you can talk terms with me after entering top 8? You think you have such a high value? Humph, there are countless people who want to be my grandson. It is your honor to be able to call me grandpa, do you understand?" Xiao paused before continuing, "Let me hear you call me grandpa." Young Thieving Heaven's face had a distorted expression, he clenched his fists so tightly that his nails had dug into his flesh. He was trembling and sweating all over, this was caused by the pain, but also by the sense of humiliation and fury which he could not vent. Grandpa. After a long while, young Thieving Heaven squeezed out this word. "Yes, my good grandson. Your voice is too soft, grandpa is old and did not hear you clearly." Xiao laughed sinisterly. Young Thieving Heaven immediately felt his pain lightening by a lot. Xiao had reduced the effect of his method. Young Thieving Heaven's brows tensed as the resolve to die flashed past his eyes, but he then recalled his family and his beloved woman, he took a huge breath and called out, "Hello, grandpa." Ha ha ha, as long as grandson is obedient, grandpa will be satisfied. Xiao's laughter was filled with smugness. "Now, grandpa wants you to refine Gu, can you do it?" Not. Young Thieving Heaven's face was deathly pale from the pain, but he still persisted in his bottom line. Scumbag. Xiao was furious, intensifying his method. Young Thieving Heaven cried out and fell to the ground. Even after torturing him for a while, Xiao felt a headache when he saw young Thieving Heaven refusing to compromise. "You brat, you have quite the sense of justice. A pity, I thought you were raw talent when I saw you fight so efficiently. I did not think you don't even understand the logic of every man for himself. So what if you have to kill an infant? If they do not die, then you will die. If you die, then any wealth or desire will fade out of existence. Think carefully." Young Thieving Heaven was slumped to the ground, curled up like a shrimp, his whole body was soaked with sweat, and he had almost lost consciousness, he did not have any energy right now. But, the corners of his lips still rose slightly. "Xiao, you can forget about it. I am different from you, I won't build my happiness and bliss on others' suffering." Laughable persistence. A lot of things in this world need to be fought for, if you don't fight or kill, how can you continue to live? What are you thinking in that head of yours? Xiao's voice was icy and disdainful, just think of why you were banished by the clan. Wasn't it because there were too little resources in the clan, and they felt raising you was a waste, so they used clan rules to openly try to kill you? Young Thieving Heaven's eyes shone brightly, "I understand this logic now, but what others do is their issue. If I do it, then it would become my issue, and I won't do this." Ignorant. Then let me send you to your death. Xiao's fury had reached its limit, but just as he was about to attack, he suddenly paused. "Ah, my poor son, how could you pass away like this?" Young Thieving Heaven, who was slumped near the wall, suddenly heard a woman's cry from inside the house. Then, there was a clamor inside the house. Someone also started crying, and someone was furiously cursing the doctor for being incompetent. Young Thieving Heaven and Xiao listened attentively before understanding the reason. It turned out the owners of this house had a baby, but the baby was congenitally deficient and was barely hanging on to life. The house lord spent a heavy price to invite a rank 3 Gu master, but the Gu master was also unable to save the baby who finally died today. Kid, your luck seems to be pretty good. This baby is enough to refine Gu, he has already died, you can collect his corpse and use it to refine the Gu. Xiao laughed, but it was filled with killing intent. If you don't agree, you can go die. At worst, I will just change to another pawn. Young Thieving Heaven was silent for a long while before replying, okay. Humph, that's good. Xiao did not speak anymore. Young Thieving Heaven rested for a good while before standing up with difficulty. Through this event, Young Thieving Heaven thoroughly realized Xiao's nature was extremely forceful. He meant what he said and did not allow for any disobedience. To return to his home, Young Thieving Heaven decided to swallow this humiliation. According to the clan's common practice, the small competition would halt for a few days. Almost all the remaining competitors would remain in their house in this brief period, training and receiving guidance from their seniors. Over the next few days, Young Thieving Heaven began to gather the Gu materials recorded in the Gu recipe. Although the gathering process was filled with obstacles, he managed to find them all. After that baby's corpse was buried, Young Thieving Heaven dug it out in the middle of the night. There were 2 more days before the competition resumed. This night, in a remote hut, Young Thieving Heaven started refining Gu. This Gu recipe was already clear and concise, but Grandpa thought of your tiny primeval essence storage and added in many steps. Grandpa is so considerate, grandson, you need to succeed in this Gu refinement. Xiao's voice transmitted, he was going to guide Young Thieving Heaven throughout the whole process. The Gu refinement officially began. Under Xiao's guidance, Young Thieving Heaven followed the steps and began to process the Gu materials one by one. Because it was his first time refining Gu, Young Thieving Heaven's performance was extremely bad at the start. He repeatedly made mistakes even in the most simple procedure like using fire to process the materials. Were it not for Xiao's timely guidance in correcting Young Thieving Heaven, this Gu refinement would have already failed. Xiao was hurling all kinds of abuse in anger. But as the Gu refinement progressed, Xiao's curses became fewer and fewer. So this is the talent of a demon venerable. Fang Yuan, who had been observing all along from the side, was also shaken. Young Thieving Heaven displayed an extremely powerful Gu refinement talent, adapting very quickly, from the stumbling around at the beginning, to gaining his footing, and then becoming stable, and in the later stage of the Gu refinement, he even looked to be at ease. There are final 4 steps remaining to refine this Gu worm. Xiao actually encouraged Young Thieving Heaven, my good grandson, do well, refine this Gu worm and give your grandpa face in the competition. Young Thieving Heaven took a deep breath and gazed at the baby's corpse in front of him. A resolute light flashed past his eyes. Although this baby did not die by my hands, if I use it to refine Gu, how can I bear it in my heart? Anyway, Gu refinement can easily fail. If I fail here, Xiao also won't blame it on me. Child, forgive me, even after death, you could not rest in peace. But I had no choice, this is all I can do. I hope your soul can ascend to heaven through this fire. If you can reincarnate, please don't return. This world is too cruel. While murmuring this inwardly, Young Thieving Heaven made a mistake. The fire immediately burned fiercely and engulfed the baby's corpse. The intensity of the fire is too high, lower it quick. Xiao said in a startled tone. I am trying. Young Thieving Heaven pretended to panic, immediately controlling the fire, but the fire instead burned even hotter. Such audacity! You purposely failed, you are going against me. Xiao's gaze turned furious as he realized Young Thieving Heaven's intention. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1500, Sneak Attack Gu. Chapter 1500, Sneak Attack Gu. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. No, Grandpa, you misunderstood me. I truly cannot control this fire's intensity. Young Thieving Heaven was still continuing with the act. He. You dare to deceive me, you are truly looking down on me. Alright, I won't take your life. Let this fire devour you as well. You think Gu refinement is so simple and safe? You are seeking your own doom by intentionally failing the Gu refinement. Die, this is the result of your persistence, this is your own doing. Xiao snickered. Before he finished his words, that fire immediately soared and covered young thieving heaven. Why did this happen? Young thieving heaven wanted to charge out, but the fire was emitting an enormous attractive force that kept him on the spot. Looking as he was about to be buried in the fire, Fang Yuan discovered he could control young thieving heaven's body once again. Why do I feel like I am cleaning up young thieving heaven's mess? Fang Yuan felt frustrated. But he did not panic. Fang Yuan had already come across the Gu recipe Xiao had given to young thieving heaven. This was a rank 1 Gu recipe, while Fang Yuan was a refinement path quasi-grandmaster, so the principles of the Gu recipe were clear to him. Although young thieving heaven had already made a mistake, in Fang Yuan's view, it was not irrecoverable. Sandpit Gu. Fang Yuan controlled young thieving heaven's body to throw sandpit Gu to a certain position in the fire. He did not activate this Gu worm, instead throwing it in as a Gu material. The delicate Gu immediately attracted the fire and was soon burnt into a pile of powder. The fire's attraction force decreased sharply. Fang Yuan took this chance to jump out. He rolled on the ground for a few times to extinguish the remaining fire on him. His injuries were severe. Young thieving heaven's face, neck, arms and other areas were burnt to a miserable degree. But Fang Yuan ignored the injuries, and put all his attention on that fire. Young thieving heaven was still not out of danger, because the Gu refinement process had yet to truly stop. If this fire continued to burn, it would definitely engulf young thieving heaven again. So Fang Yuan activated chimney smoke Gu, smoke came out and covered the basin-sized fire. Layers of smoke shrouded this fire. As the danger decreased gradually, Fang Yuan felt his connection with the fire was rapidly weakening. Like this, the smoke can extinguish the fire and stop this Gu refinement. Although there will be some backlash, this body's life will be preserved. In this state, Fang Yuan had done all he could. After all, young thieving heaven was too reckless, actually trying to intentionally fail the Gu refinement. This Gu refinement had instead lowered his strength because he now lost the precious sandpit Gu. However, a change occurred right at this moment. The smoke was suddenly absorbed into the fire. What's going on? Even Fang Yuan had not expected this. But shortly, when he saw that baby's phantom in the fire, he realized, there is an issue with this baby, their constitution is probably not ordinary, it is quite bizarre. The baby had been added to the fire as a Gu material. Fang Yuan had been observing from the side and had not carefully inspected the baby, so he did not know if there was anything strange with it. This anomaly had surpassed Fang Yuan's expectation. The fire soared once again, the baby's phantom jumped about in the fire and pounced towards young thieving heaven. Damn, this is dangerous. Fang Yuan sighed, if young thieving heaven died, his dream realm exploration would also fail subsequently. Looking at the fire about to pounce at young thieving heaven's body, Fang Yuan suddenly had an inspiration. Got it. He first threw the chimney smoke Gu. The chimney smoke Gu immediately attracted the baby phantom in the fire, it made babbling noise as it charged at the chimney smoke Gu and started eating it. Taking this chance, Fang Yuan quickly retreated a few steps, pulling apart some distance from the fire. But soon, the baby had finished eating chimney smoke Gu and charged towards Fang Yuan again. Fang Yuan laughed, come, there is also clear water Gu. Clear water Gu was thrown out, and was also devoured by the baby. The fire suddenly dimmed, the clear water Gu turned into a lump of emerald green water that could not be evaporated by the fire. And the red fire turned into orange-yellow, shrouded in light. It was no longer fiery as before, and was deeply concealed instead. The emerald green water and orange-yellow fire circulated around each other in the air. Fang Yuan moved young thieving heaven's body to advance instead of retreating, and went in front of this strange water and fire. Sandpit turned into powder, consolidating the body. Chimney smoke shrouded and restrained the fire. Clear water toppled the world. Using blood to integrate yin and yang. Wonderful. Fang Yuan bit his tongue and spat out his blood into the strange water and fire. Eek. After the strange water and fire was touched by the blood, it suddenly turned into a blue baby phantom that screamed and pounced at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan did not dodge, letting it attack. The blue baby phantom directly entered young thieving heaven's aperture, turning into a rank 2 Gu worm. What is this? Young thieving heaven came back to his senses and was stumped. What the, again? Fang Yuan was speechless. The moment young thieving heaven was safe, he was thrown to the side and turned into an observer. You actually refined a completely new Gu worm under a series of coincidences? Xianxia also shouted out in surprise. No, that's wrong. Shortly, he came to a realization. Brat, you seem to have a hidden nature which only takes control when you encounter fatal danger, and then makes you intuitively make the best choice. It was like this in the competition, it seems to be the same in Gu refinement as well. You are naive and stubborn, as well as hopelessly stupid, but this hidden nature of yours is quite pragmatic and extremely cunning, having talents that you can't reach. I quite admire this nature, very impressive. Xianxia started laughing. I refined a new Gu. Young thieving heaven still had not completely reacted to this situation and was dazed. That's right, give it a try. This new Gu is a rank 2 Gu, it seems to be a new innovation, even I can't make out its effect. Activating an unknown Gu worm was a dangerous thing. For instance, spring-autumn cicada was the best example. But young thieving heaven had just started cultivating and was ignorant, and Xianxia, who knew about the risks, did not have any concern for young thieving heaven's safety. So young thieving heaven dumbly activated this Gu worm. The moment it was activated, this Gu worm turned back into a blue baby phantom that gave a strange scream before exiting young thieving heaven's aperture and charging ahead. There was a stone stool ahead. The blue baby phantom directly entered the stone stool, then exited and returned to young thieving heaven's aperture, turning back into its Gu appearance. The stone stool looked undamaged. Young thieving heaven walked to the stool and touched it. Bam! A crisp sound echoed as the stone stool turned into crushed stone pieces. Young thieving heaven was taken aback and took a step back, looking at the pile of pebbles on the ground in shock. Wonderful! Xianxia praised, this Gu worm has extremely high power, it is a top-tier rank 2 Gu worm. More importantly, it seems to be able to pass through defenses. Take a look, the stone stool crumbled from the inside. Xianxia was astute, seeing many of its profundities in an instant. Young thieving heaven was still somewhat muddled. Xianxia looked at his aperture and praised again, amazing. Look at your aperture, only 10% primeval essence has been expended in activating this Gu worm, this is unimaginable. This is a rank 2 Gu worm with so much power, but it only needs 10% of rank 1 green copper primeval essence. But I only have D-grade aptitude, my primeval essence is just a bit more than 20%. I can only use this Gu worm twice. Young thieving heaven was worried. You know nothing. With this Gu worm, the first position in the competition is yours. No one can defend against your Gu worm. Xianxia scoffed. I can be first with this Gu. Young thieving heaven's eyes opened wide. Once this Gu worm is activated, it will turn into a blue baby phantom that will attack the enemy. You have seen its speed, it is extremely fast. Rank 3 Gu masters might be able to dodge it with difficulty, but against rank 1 and rank 2 Gu masters, as long as you close some distance, they will be struck and have no time to dodge. Xianxia continued to analyze, mumbling, looking at this Gu worm's power and effect, we might as well call it sneak attack Gu. The Gu worm was created by young thieving heaven, but Xianxia took the liberty to name this Gu worm Sneak Attack Gu. Young thieving heaven immediately frowned and wanted to object. Yes, call it Sneak Attack Gu, my naming sense is still good. Ha ha ha. Xianxia said domineeringly. Young thieving heaven could only roll his eyes helplessly. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible.